Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Rani Febriani. In this video, I wanna present about methods in English material development. Okay, there are 8 table of contents. The first, grammar tense translation methods. The second, direct method. Next, audiolingual methods. Next, silent way, Suggestopedia, community language learning, total physical response, and community language teacher. The first material is grammar translation methods. Definition: Grammar translation methods, or GTM, is a method of foreign or second language teaching which uses translation and grammar study as the main teaching and learning activities. GTM is a teaching and learning method that focuses on grammar rules and translation and is also a four-phase grammar and translation method. The next characteristic of grammar translation method. The first, outline of grammatical structure or vocabulary list. The second, completion of exercises and translation. And the last, conversation about language. The next material is advantages of GTM. The first, this enriches the learner's vocabulary in English as the learner can consult the dictionary to learn the meaning of new words. The second, student can learn English with the help of their mother tongue. The next, it promotes reading and comprehension skill because textbooks are the main component of this method. And the last is, this method doesn't require a lot of teaching and learning material because it is cost effective. The last material is disadvantages of GTM. The first, it is a natural method because it doesn't follow the natural learning sequence, which includes listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The second is it ignores the spoken approach to language learning so that they may not be able to develop proper experience in foreign language. The last is it does not offer pattern practice because students may read or write poorly despite knowing grammar rules. The second material is direct method. Definition: direct method. The direct method is a way of presenting foreign language subject matter in which the teacher directly uses the foreign language as the language of instruction and without using the student's language at all in the teaching. The next characteristic of direct method. The first, student listen to language in large quantities without translation. The second, grammar rules stop or inductive methods. The last, use of realia or pictures. The next is advantages of direct method. The first, this method is a natural method that teaches the target language in a similar way to when students learn the mother tongue. The second is English is taught as a medium of learning so that can create. The third, students are accustomed to using the target language. And the last, students get the opportunity to listen to English orally. The next is disadvantage of direct method. The first, there are parts of the vocabulary that cannot be taught through direct translation. The second is this method is not appropriate for managing classes with a large number of students. The last is students are not allowed to translate where they are still at the lower level. Okay, the third material is audiolingual method. Definition of audiolingual method is a method of foreign language teaching which emphasizes the teaching of listening and speaking before reading and writing. It uses dialogues as the main form of language presentation and drills as the main training techniques. Mother tongue is discouraged in the classroom. The next is characteristic of audiolingual method. The first emphasis on spoken rather than written language. The last follows sequence of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The next is advantages of audiolingual methods. The first, it develops listening and speaking skill effectively. The second is vocabulary is enhanced via visual aids. The third, students learn proper and correct pronunciation. And the last, this method is helpful if we aim to teach a large group of students. The next is disadvantages of audiolingual methods. The first, writing and reading skills are highly ignored. The second is it needs efficient and talented mentors to teach with audiolingual methods, but such efficient teachers are not available everywhere to do this job well. The last is this method just focuses on the phonological aspect of the words, not their meaning are brought under discussion. The fourth material is Silent Way. Okay, definition of Silent Way is a language teaching method that makes extensive use of silence as the teaching technique. The next is characteristic of Silent Way. The first teacher is silent while students speak. The second is use of colors, charts, questionnaire, crowds, and the last learners responsible for what they learn. The next advantages of silent way, the first fostering cooperative learning between individuals. The second saving time and energy for both teachers and students. The last increasing self-esteem of students. The next is disadvantages of silent way. The first studying in small groups. The second using only specific materials. The third and the last no creativity. Okay, the fifth material is Suggestopedia. Definitions of Suggestopedia. Suggestopedia is teaching method which focuses on how to deal with the relationship between mental potential and learning ability, and it is very appropriate to use in teaching speaking for young language learners. Next is characteristic of Suggestopedia. The first, low anxiety, relaxed environment. The last is based on principle of infantilization or pseudo-passivity. The next is advantages of Suggestopedia. The first, student can lower their affective filter. The second is classes are held in ordinary rooms with comfortable chairs, a practice that may also help them relax. The third, students remember best and are most influenced by information coming from an authoritative source teachers. The last, increase oral proficiency and lower classroom anxiety. The next, disadvantages of Suggestopedia. If we don't have a comfortable environment, we will not learn a good way. The second, environmental limitation. Most schools in developing countries have large classes. Each class consists of 30 to 40 students. There should be 12 students in the class. The third, the use of hypnosis. Some people say that Suggestopedia uses a hypnosis so it has bad effects for human beings. Lacans strongly denied about it. And the last, Infantilization learning, Suggestopedia class is conditioned by childlike situation. There are some students who don't like to be treated like this as they think that they are mature. The sex material is Community Language Learning or CCL. Definition of Community Language Learning or CCL is a language teaching method which involves psychological aspect and students work together to develop what skill of a language they would like to learn. The next is characteristic of Community Language Learning or CCL. The first, teacher has passive role. The second, cooperative learning community. The third, low anxiety or free expression. And the last, five, learning stage. The next is advantages of community language learning. The first, works well with lower level students who are struggling in spoken. The second, English lowers student anxiety and overcome threatening affective filter. And the third, it creates a warm, sympathetic, and trusting relationship between teacher and learners. The next, counselor allow the learners to determine type of conversation. And the last, train students to become independent. The next is disadvantages of community language learning. The first, some learners find it difficult to speak on tape. That's the second, in order for students to become independent, teacher might neglect the need for guidance. The next is translation is an intricate and difficult text. The success of this method relies largely on the counselor translation, and the last is it is time consuming to carry out. The pen material is total physical response. Definition of total physical response or TPR is a language teaching method that learners become skilled through listening to their teacher and before requiring them to speak, and asking them to practice using verbal communication accompanied by physical action. The next is characteristic of total physical response or TPR. The first, understanding developed through body movement. And the second is a listening speaking approach. And the last, principle of contiguity, frequency, and feedback. The next is advantages of total physical response. It's fun and easy. The second is doesn't require a great deal of preparation on the part of the teacher. The third is a good tool for learning vocabulary. The next, class size doesn't need to be a problem. And the last, there is no age barrier. And the next is disadvantages of total physical response. The fourth is not a very creative method. Students are not given the opportunity to express their own views and thoughts in a creative way. And the last, it is limited since everything cannot be explained with this method. It must be combined with other approaches. The last material is communicative language teaching or CLT. Definition of communicative language teaching is a set of principles about teaching, including recommendations about method and syllabus, where the focus is on meaningful communication, not structure. Not used. In this approach, students are given tasks to accomplish using language instead of studying the language. The next is characteristic of communicative language teaching. The first focus on meaning. The second, speaking is primary. The third, interaction through fear and group work. The next, language divided into system and skill. Next, PVV, presentation, practice, and production. The next, CTT rather than TTT. And the last, games, fun, involvement. The next is advantages of communicative language teaching. The first, this technique increases the teacher-student relationship. It's an interactive relationship. The second is CLT or communicative language teaching provides the opportunity for students to be aware of their abilities and exhibit them. And the last, the student in this way can learn the target language in an enjoyable way. And the next is disadvantages of communicative language teaching. The first, the requirements are difficult. Not all classrooms can allow for group work, activities, and for teaching aids and materials. The second is it is controversial whether it can be used in every level for students. And the last, the teacher should prefer the syllabus by taking student interest and needs into account. However, the energy and time of the teacher are limited. Okay, I think that's all from me. Don't forget to subscribe and comment. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.